a little breeze, they speed up. Starts up on the drum, he hit them and make them go fast. And he slow back down, his leg get tired. They slow back down. Lord help them all. Because they've been playing with them buckets 100 miles an hour.
Welcome to the jungle.
Home Depot buckets.
That's all right. Make a joyful noise.
Buckets from the Home Depot.
That's it. Make a joyful noise.
He set up buckets.
No, he didn't say
He told them what kind of symbols and lyrics and all that. He told them what kind. They take a shortcut and go to Home Depot and get a bunch of buckets.
Whatever's available.
Some other things were available too.
These were free.
Huh?
These were free.
Oh, so you don't want to invest in that. You just want to come out here and hit a corner. I hear you. Or come back and you look up and you say, nope, no bucket folks coming. I'll leave all you bucket dwellers behind.
So, that's true. You wouldn't know whether we gonna obey and do it, whether we have it
I don't know what you're saying, but I gotta get me a hearing aid for you. That'll be on you every time you play. We're gonna talk some more in Ecclesiastes. I look back at the 8th chapter, and I saw some things that I wanted to go over a little bit more. It's just amazing how much wisdom Solomon had, and we read in the Bible about the great wisdom that he had. But when you read and study the Word, you understand that there was a whole lot of stuff he didn't understand. And so what that tells us is, I don't care how much wisdom you get, you can never understand to the fullest of what God got going on, what he has planned, and what the end going to be. And so what that does is tells us how to settle in a place and just be grateful for where we are, what we do know, what we do understand. And understand and realize that whatever else we need, we pray and ask God, he'll give us what we need. We can ask God for wisdom, and we can think about the amount of wisdom and where it's going to come from in one mindset. And God will give us what we are able and capable of handling in whatever area he desire or know we need to be able to handle. And so I just think about this guy, how from an 20-year-old, I think he was, taking over as king, and all the seasoned aged guys that was in David's camp, that when this guy was first chosen to be king, they wasn't too keen on it. And it took them a while after they saw David was steady pushing for him to be, how they eventually warmed up to it. And then to see him elevated to the place where he had so much wisdom and knowledge that he did things that they couldn't have imagined sitting up under David's kingship that he would have ever been able to do, like expanding his kingdom 50,000 square miles, building a land force of camels where he could ship stuff by land on camel's back, and then building a shipping industry that he could ship stuff out across the ocean, places that David would have probably never dreamed of. It's just how God just empowered him, gave him enough wisdom and knowledge that he could do all those things and talk about everything, and he still didn't understand the wholeness of what life and the world was all about. He didn't understand the dealings behind death. All he knew was people was going to die, and he didn't have it wasn't given at his time for him to be able to understand that there was a true life after death, and there was going to be a heaven, and there was going to be a Holy Spirit who was going to come and indwell people, and people were going to have to suffer for the cause of Christ, and in order to get there, and everybody wasn't going to have the same amount of wisdom and knowledge he had. All those things God gave to him, but it was still his understanding was still limited under the sun. It was limited to things under the sun. He didn't understand things past this life. But he gave us a lot of insight. That just shows us if we just sit back and look at what he done. God gave him a lot of wisdom, but it was still a lot of things that he didn't understand. And so when we look in this world today and we see all the stuff that's going on, we can not understand to the fullest. We see the struggle going on in the world and how you see all this divisiveness, and you ask the question, how can one man look at another man because of the color of his skin, he think less of him? How can men sit down and write a Constitution and the Declaration of Independence and have all that, and then write in that one man is 3/5 of a man in order to control him because of his dark skin? You can't figure that. You can't understand that. You can't understand how one race of people, a group of people, can sit up and watch people kill off of another color, and it's not a big deal, and they think it's all right. And then you got treatment of a system that's supposed to be fair and just, that's turned on his head, and light-skinned folks, fair-skinned folks can get away with stuff that dark-skinned folks can't. You can't figure all that stuff. And so when you look at Ecclesiastes and you see the whole of what Solomon saw through his years and how God put him in one place as a young man, and how he lived all the way through and got in these latter years, and just didn't keep up, but God allowed him to see a lot of stuff and put it on these pages to help us. Now and then you can kind of have some insight on not worrying about how wicked and corrupt the world is. I can only do my part. And when I understand how wicked and corrupt the world is, when I see how wicked and corrupt the world is, and I can only do so much, then what it does, it gives you a peace on the inside. So you can't have no peace when your mind is in total turmoil. You're trying to figure all this madness out. Well, why they do this? Why they do that? Why they can't do it like this? And you stay in this uproar. But when you read about how Solomon saw and how he lived and how he come back and told us all these things, when you get to this, that, all things, when it comes down to it, it's just meaningless. Then when you understand that all the efforts and all the force that you put in, when you understand that this is just meaningless, that it serves no eternal purpose, then what that does is it gives you the ability to be able to rest. Think about that on the inside. With the non-existence of turmoil, it gives peace and rest for your soul. You can rest within yourself. You can relax within yourself when you come to the conclusion that no matter what kind of effort I put forth of my own, no matter how hard I fight this thing on my own, no matter how hard I fight this worldly system is set up to cause me to fail if I live according to the world system. But if I understand that this world system and what it has to offer is meaningless, and it's all just a chasing after the wind, I can relax. I can rest. When I understand that God is in control of my life, and whatever God has for me, I'm going to get it. I don't have to worry about death. I don't have to worry about not eating. I don't have to worry about, because God has a responsibility to take care of me. Then I can rest. Until I get to that place, and I understand that God is responsible for me, then my life going to continue to be a wonder. What am I going to do? How am I going to do? I can't get through. I want to do this. I couldn't do this. I wanted to do that. I couldn't do that. When I understand that whatever God has for me, it's going to come to me. I'm going to get it. Then I can have some rest. And so this guy kind of like laid this thing out for us and told us about it. And then he talked in one place where everything is a chasing after the wind. All this stuff and running, it's a chasing after the wind. So even dying, he found out that what that was. And you know what I thought about? I thought about that when God blew into man, the Bible says he breathed into him and he became a living soul. What did he breathe into him? He didn't breathe flesh. He didn't breathe blood and bone. He breathed breath. He breathed wind into him. He breathed the wind into him. And because of that righteous wind that he blew into him, then this piece that he had molded on the ground with his hand then became flesh, from dust to flesh. And inside of that, blood was created. And that was the life of man. Blood was the life of man. Because he breathed that breath, because he's a spirit. He breathed that breath into man. And when he breathed into man, that breath, that's what turned everything to be what it came out to be. And that's where we are. So since we belong to him and he made us and he know all about us, Bible, he say he even know the number of hairs on our head. Then when will I allow myself to rest in peace? When will I allow myself to just be able to rest and relax in God? I don't know what my end is. I don't know what my future is. I don't even know when I'm going to die. I don't even know how I'm going to die. I can't figure none of that out. No man can. And so since all that is impossible for me to figure, and it's not for me to know, then why can't I just rest in God? Can I have a time in life when I can just speak God's truth and not worry about all the things going on and just rest in him? Can I not get caught up about what people are doing, what vile, wicked, evil stuff they're doing? Because he told me in the word through this guy here, he's going to take care of all that. So why don't I get to a place again where I can rest in God? To get to know God, to get to understand God, gives me the ability to be able to rest in God. And people tell you to seek God and all that, and that's important, and that's what we need to do. But how do we seek God? Do we run and look for him on a bush? You know? How do we seek? How do we get to understand? We read his word, and we meditate on his word. When we rest in him, we ain't in turmoil. When we rest in him and read his word and rest in him, then he'll come in through his spirit and teach us more and more and more about him. So I don't have no money to get this done. Rest in God. I'm sick. Rest in God. I want this. Rest in God. I see everybody else. Rest in God. Yeah, one king said, he looked at the wicked man, how the wicked man was prospering. And he lost his way. But he said he figured it out in the house of the Lord. When he went to the house of the Lord, it refocused. And wasn't that ASAP ready?
Yes, sir.
He said, it got me refocused. Now see, you can't rest in God when you're measuring yourself up against other folks. You can't rest in God when you see what somebody else got and you want what they got. You can rest in God when you can never get enough. That's the trouble with man today. Man got a greed demon. And I don't care how much money man get, he want more money. Amazon, Bezos out there spending, he got a $450 million yacht. Taking it up the river. They got to tear down a 100-year-old bridge for him to get his yacht through there. And you know what he did? He sent the Amazon Prime rate up for the Amazon Prime customers. And when you look at what it costs you, it might be $9, $10, $20 a you. But when you think about the amount of people that's got that, they just pay for that bridge to be taken down.
Every joke.
See, when you got a greed demon, you ain't never got it. You can never be satisfied. So we got folk now that you can't satisfy them, I don't care what. When this man talked in the 8th chapter of Ecclesiastes, he said, who is like the wise man? Who knows the explanation of things? Wisdom brightens a man's face and changes his hard appearance. Listen at that. Wisdom brightens a man's face and changes his hard appearance. Wisdom brightens a man's face and changes his hard appearance. Man, when man don't have godly wisdom, he's still in a struggle. And it shows up in his countenance. Because there's an inward battle going on the inside. He's trying to figure the whole world out. He's trying to figure out something he'll never be able to figure out. And you know what wisdom is? Wisdom is knowing that you can't figure it all out.
Amen.
And that's what settles your countenance. You can't figure that. You don't know where you're going in life. Only God knows. God got the key to your life.
Yes, he does.
And when you understand that, then what happens is you can rest in God. You can learn more about God. God will give you more of Him. You don't have to. I am saying the song, chasing after you. You don't have to chase after Him. He showed that in the scripture where he said, if you delight in me, I'll give you the desire of your heart. In other words, if you just relax and enjoy me, you want more of me. Not more stuff and things. I can't get enough stuff. I can't get enough things. You'll never get to a place where you can rest in God when you can't be steady and steadfast in the place you are. Everything new. It's going to be something new. Every time you look up, they're going to have something new. And if you can't be settled, and just accepting what God has allowed in your life, you're gonna stay in turmoil. See, it's a lot of things happen in our lives as humans that we can't control. There's two forms of evil going on in the world that the devil is vested in. One is using man to rock your day and mess your day up. The other is to bring about sicknesses and diseases. But what you got to understand is God gets to put the stamp on both of them, either allow or disallow. And what he did was he told us that he wouldn't put more on us than we can bear. So no matter what's going on in the world, I don't have to try to figure out, to get around, to duck and seek what's going to happen, because he didn't promise me that he wouldn't put more on me than I can bear. Now a lot of people take that as a lot of bad stuff. He won't put no bad stuff on me, more bad stuff on me than I can bear. And what you can't bear don't mean it's gonna kill you dead. What you can't bear means that God can allow something to come on you to kill you spiritually. Like too much money, too much fame and notoriety. And so he said, what he said in that is, I'm your protector. And I will not allow nothing to come on you to destroy you. So if I ask God for stuff, and it don't happen, I believed with all my heart it was going to happen, but it never happened. It means that's a possibility that it would destroy you. So then, since he know all, he see all, he understand all. And when I say he know all, he see all, he understand, he know my breaking point. He know what he can trust me with that won't cause me to turn my back on him. And he know what he can't trust me with because it'll just take me over. And see, we talk about the human existence. The human don't have no stopping point. It's God that put breaks in humans' lives. Even when you're unsaved. It's God that put that sense in you to say, I'm not going to go past this. I'm not going to do that. That's not appetizing to me. I don't want no parts of that. I won't do this. I won't do that. It's God that puts those breaks in our lives. That's why you ain't never killed nobody. A whole lot of things you ain't never done. No bank robbers for the most part up in here. God gave you the breaks and said, no, that's a boundary I won't cross. I understand that that's illegitimate for me. If I do that, I understand that the negative consequences. But how about all the folks out there that do? And justify it? How about all the things that happen in people's lives and they justify it and they end up hurting them? Drugs, alcohol, all the sex you can track down and get your hands on. All the things that we do as humans that we shouldn't do, is what keep us in an uproar. So when you understand the pure picture of God, who he is, where he's at in your life, and you rest in him, it's shown on the outside. That's why real Christians look different. People see you and it's just something about you. You don't have to utter a word. They see you and it's just something about you. Because that rest, that relaxation in Christ on the inside, no matter what's going on around you, that's that light on the inside that shines on the outside. They talk about that light that's not hidden on a bushel or whatever it is. Light is put there to shine. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about what's in you that's showing up on the outside of you. I don't care how you try to pretty it up. If it ain't nothing in there, it ain't going to show up on the outside. Outside of the continence of a man that has no wisdom of what's right, what it takes to get close to God, what God expects, requiring the man of us. The difference is when you get to a place in God where you're willing and obedient. Yes, Lord, to your will. Yes, to your way. Whatever you require and demand of me, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to leave the rest to you. Because you get yourself in a mess out there I'm trying to make this happen. I'm just trying to fix this. God's saying, I already got the fix. What you need to do is, you need to learn how to rest in me and I'll take care of the rest. He says here, now when you talk about in this second verse, you talking about obey the king. What are you talking about? He's talking about government. He talking about obeying sanctioned, righteous, right government. And even when you got wicked folk that in governmental places, some government is better than no government at all, unless you got Donald Trump in office. You got Trump in office, you don't need no government because there ain't no government there. It's a man about himself. And you're gonna find some of them. You're gonna find some of them in government. You're gonna find some of them in church leadership. You're gonna find some of them everywhere you go. Just don't you be one of them. He says, obey the king's commands. I say because you took an oath before God. Do not be in a hurry to leave the king's presence. Do not stand up for a bad cause, for he will do whatever he pleases. Now, when I talk about obey the king, it says again, the king here represents human government as instituted by God. Government officials who follow God's principles of living encourage righteous living. Our Lord wants us to obey the just laws of government. Look at Titus 3:1. Titus 3:1 says, but mark this, there will be terrible, I'm sorry, that's Timothy, I'm trying to get to Titus. I gotta do that cookie, I gotta get me some more glasses. This thing here when I have like a color over there. It's still.
Remind the people to be subject.
Huh?
Remind the people to be subject to rulers and authorities.
There you go.
To be obedient, to be ready to do whatever is good.
And then on the second verse, it's going to say to slander no one, to be peaceable and considerate, and always be gentle toward everyone. Because it says, the heading on Titus 3, it says, saved in order to do good. Remind the people to be subject to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, to be ready to do whatever is good, to slander no one, to be peaceable, and considerate in all ways, to be gentle toward everyone. First Peter 2:13. First Peter 2:13. First Peter 2:13 through 18. He says, submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor as the supreme authority, or to governors who are sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right. But it's God's will that by doing good, you should silence the ignorant talk of foolish people. Live as free people, but do not use your freedom as a cover up for evil. Live as God's slaves. Show proper respect to everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God. Honor the emperor. Slaves, in reverent fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters. Not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. So, God telling us cross the word. What happens when you settle yourself and you rest? It gives you peace. It gives you comfort. You can relax and you can rest in God. Only because you trust God. And in order to trust God, you got to believe what God says. If you believe what God says, then you can rest in God. Because God tells us all these things about how He's going to take care of us and all that. We got everything we need to be able to rest and relax in God. And what is that? That's wisdom. And what does wisdom do? Wisdom changes the countenance of a man's face. Because what's on the inside is peeping on the outside. You're going to say, verse 4 says, since the king's word is supreme, who can say to him, what are you doing? Whoever obeys his commands will come to no harm, and the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. For there is a proper time and procedure for every matter, though a man's misery weighs heavily upon him. Again, verse 6, for there is a proper time and procedure for every matter, though a man's misery weighs heavily upon him. So again, that's another telltale scripture to tell you rest and relax. It's a proper time for everything. I mean, You can't change that. See, that's spoken law. It's a proper time. So he's saying, don't get overwhelmed. Don't get overrun. You got to know that it's a proper time. You might be in the pits of struggle right now. I mean, you could have difficulty in life that it's like, I just don't know what to do. And if you don't have proper wisdom about God, then what happens is you're trying to fight that battle by yourself. And you don't understand the ins and outs, and you can't figure out the ins and outs. So what it's telling us here, this man of wisdom that's been around all this time, that God has given him great wisdom, but it's limited wisdom, is making it known to us that it's a time for everything. It ain't my time, but it's a time. You can't make time fit your schedule, but it's a time for everything. And when God decides it's time for a situation to end, it'll end. When God says time for a situation to begin, it'll begin. And sometimes what happens is we get in situations and stay in there longer than what we have to because of our own actions and deeds. Listen, if God trying to draw you to him, ain't no need to run. You can't get away. He proved that with Jonah. Told Jonah to go somewhere Jonah did not want to go. Jonah did not want to see Nineveh saved. He wanted them all destroyed because they were good and wicked down there. And God said, okay, in other words, since I know you and I know you hate them, I'm sending you down there to carry my message. And he took off running in a wayward direction. And God showed him, I don't care where you run, where you hide. You can tell the people to throw you overboard, but I ain't going to give you even a chance to swim back to the sea. I'm going to let you take a tour of what the inside of a whale look like. Get the slime and his food that he eat in the water all over you. And when he spits you out, you're going to be so amazed and impressed by what's in him. When he spits you out, you ain't going to walk where I told you to go. You're going to run there.
Getting hurt.
And so we go and we get ourselves in an uproar. And we see tough things happening. And we try to figure out wicked folks and how they doing and what they doing. Why they won't do this and why they won't. You can't change them. All you can do is do what you can do, and don't get yourself overly exerted and overburnt and stuff because you can't figure out. Don't try to figure out what they do. You see a bank robber robbing a bank, you can't stop him. Just call the police. That's as far as you can go. You call the police. I mean, whatever's going on. I mean, evil going on everywhere. People lying and deceiving, tricking. I mean, it ain't no end to what they got going on. But you can't change that. I don't care how bad you want it for them. You can't change that. But this man says a time for everything. And what that's telling us is God got a stopping date. You just continue to petition God. If you can rest and relax, that means you believe God. If you believe God, you can petition God. You can talk to God. You can tell God. Yes. But the other side of that coin is you got to be straight with God yourself. Yeah, absolutely. You can't sit up and pray to God and tell God to do things and you ain't obeying God yourself. See, with this half-hearted obedience that mankind got going on, you can't move God with that. What moves God is obedience. Abraham showed that. Abraham got up and left town when God told him, just because God told him. And God made him the patriot of his heavenly folks that he's going to take back. God saw all the way down the road from Abraham and the sacrifice and all that stuff. He saw all the way down the road to Christ coming and what's going to happen when he wraps all his people. See, all this ain't just unfolding to God now. He just figured it out. God knew from the beginning. And so he saw all the way down through here. He didn't even know he knew he was going to have Solomon. He knew what he was going to do with Solomon. He knew about the records he was going to have of the Bible. He knew about all the people that lived that he was going to have instructions written so people on down the road under the new covenant can look back and see this as an example on how God planned unfold through time. And the key is, nobody could figure it out. God put it on paper through man after man after man. No one man could figure it out. He gave bit by bit by bit by bit to writer after writer after writer after writer. All the time Christ lived down here 33 years, if he had had everything written about him, we wouldn't be able to carry it. But he gave him just what we needed in order to study and get a grasp on what's going on, so it wouldn't overpower us, overwhelm us, lose our interest. He gave us just what we needed in order to be able to accept and live up to his requirements and expectations. And so he goes on and says, again, verse 5, whoever obeys his commands will come to no harm, and the wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. The wise heart will know the proper time and procedure. That means God's going to speak inside of you, and he's going to let you know. For there is a proper time and procedure for every matter. Though a man misery weighs heavily upon him. Since no man knows the future, who can tell him what is to come? You see that? He said, no man knows the future. This man with great wisdom, that had lived a lot of years. He says, since no man knows the future, who can tell him what is to come? I mean, I can't tell you when you're going to die. You can't tell me when I'm going to die. You can't tell me where I'm going to be 6 months from now. You can't tell me where I'm going to be 20 years from now. I can't tell you. You can't tell me. He said, no man has power over the wind to contain, so no one has power over the day of his death. He got wind tied in with death. No man has power over the wind to contain it, so no one has power over the day of his death. So, what happens when you die? No more breath. What happens while you live? You breathe in breath. When breath stops, you're a dead man. There could be many causes of breath stop, but when breath stops, you're dead. You ain't breathing no more. That life that was breathed into you is now gone. It's out. It stopped. Where your spirit go? Where your soul go? Nobody knows. Nobody can stand up and tell you. They can say they know, but nobody knows. So in this life, he's saying you chasing after the wind. It's meaningless. It serves no purpose because you don't know where it's all going to stop. Whatever you're chasing, he's saying, one day, breath going to stop. It's like chasing after the wind. You don't know. We none know. So what he's saying is, wisdom is understanding that I don't know, knowing that one day I'm going to leave here, knowing and understanding I don't know where, when, and how, understanding that God got everything in control, and resting in him. Resting in him is trusting in him. If you can't trust, you can't rest. You can't sit on a chair over there with 3 legs and relax. Because you in your mind there's some doubt that 3 legs gonna hold you. When you got 4 legs, even though 4 legs can give out and make you bite the dust, you still trust that 4 more than you do 3. So when I trust God, I believe God, I can rest in God. I can petition God. I can talk to God. God will talk to me through his spirit. I can go to bed, I can sleep, and he'll speak. And that's like I was saying last night when I saw Reggie walk through the door, I saw him preaching. So what that tells me is he got to get on the giddy up. While he on the giddy up, might think some things coming short, but you got to rest in God. God's going to take care of it. See, we don't need God when everything's straight. We need God when we done drove the car in the ditch. We need him to come and pull us out and take us on. And when one thing about God, when He know you done messed up and you trying to right road it, He ain't gonna come to your rescue and start arguing and fussing with you about what you've done. He gonna let whatever you've done be a lesson to you, and you might have to hang in that pressure for a while. But the bottom line is, He gonna bring you out because that's who He is. And then He forgive it and throw it away. We weren't stumbling and staggering around like Stagger Lee would still hung around our necks. God forgives stuff and He going on about His business, and you still trying to get over. Well, I did this and I did that. So be it. You did it. It's over. It's done. Now, a lot of times there are consequences for actions, but the fact is, those consequences are lessons for us to learn that, hey, that situation there broke my rest and relaxation in God. That situation there broke up my ability to rest and communicate with God, rest and meditate in God, for God to speak to my mind more clearly, because my mind ain't all fogged up with a bunch of thoughts and things and ways I'm trying to figure out and how I'm trying to go and how I'm trying to get there. I'm settled now. And I can hear God now. Not through all this noise, because God speaks in a still small tug. The Bible's called it a small voice, but it's a still small tug. Go over there. Do this. Don't go that way. Go the other way. Never hear verbal, but He speaks to our mind. The inner part of us. He speaks. When He speaks, it's a reasoning and a rationalizing and a coming to a conclusion that go on in the inner part of man. Thought, reason, rationalizing, come to a conclusion. Is that thought coming from God? Is that thought coming from the devil? That's the reasoning part. When I hear that thought, when I reason and it fit in my spirit, I come to a conclusion that that's God. When I get a thought, when I reason and it bump up against my spirit, I know that came from the enemy. So it's a process. I hear, I reason, I rationalize, and I come to a conclusion. Either it's God or it's not God. In order to hear God, I got to be clear in my thought process. I got to be able to hear the thought. I got to be clear enough in my walking and talking that I can reason without a lot of conflict. I can reason and rationalize without conflict and come to a conclusion and say, hey, the final decision is that's God or that's not of God. How do I find what's of God and not of God? It's found in the pages of this book. And in that, God clarifies what's going on through these pages when He speaks and I hear and I reason and rationalize and I come to a conclusion. That lines up with Scripture. That's what God said. That's what God promised. This from God. Now I'm looking, because you done gave them a measure of faith to believe that whatever you say is, it's going to be. And so when I can hook them things up, when I can link them things together, when I know those things are working in my life, I can rest in God. It's a process. Think about all the things you struggle with and you run with, all the thoughts that you burn energy on. Just think about them for a second. All day long. How much you wrestle with where you're going, what you got to do, how you going to get there, how I'm going to get this, and how I'm going to get that. He told us in His Word, Matthew 6:33, if you seek His kingdom and His righteousness, all the things will be added to you. Added means given. If you seek His kingdom and His righteousness. So how am I going to seek His kingdom? I got to know His Word. I got to study His Word. I got to read His Word. And when I read His Word, He's going to speak. And I got to reason and rationalize about what I know him to be. Because this thought is invisible. This thought is something I hadn't seen. It's a thought that just came to me. So I'm going down the highway, and this thought come to me, go in a different direction. I hadn't seen what's up the road, but this thought came to me, and I'm going down the road. So when I'm going down the road and I hear go another way, and I decide to or not to, when I get down the road and traffic backed up 50 miles, then I know when I thought and I reasoned, it wasn't no joke. Now I might go down that same road and might have that thought again. And keep down that road and there's nothing there. But what's going on, it's a process of teaching us y'all this stuff. This thought is, I got this thought, and I got to learn how to hear God in order to be able to reason and rationalize. I got to be able to hear to be able to reason and rationalize, is this God or not? And so what the word does, the word backs up what God says. Is it a righteous move? What did this thought come from? Where did this thought come from? I caused this thought to come where I went down that road anyway and nothing happened. It's about teaching and instructing that every single thought, be it good or bad, don't come from God. But I can trust God and I can believe God, and I can know that I'm protected wherever I go, whatever I do, because God knows before I get there what's happening. He knows what direction. He knows whatever I got to do. God wants to teach me how to just believe him. And so everything I believe ain't going to happen. But I can believe enough. And I don't know, I can't stand here and tell you why every single thing I believe ain't going to happen. Probably because I be like a little kid that I get spoiled every time I want something, it be given to me. See, every time I thought something was given to me, I wouldn't have no reason to seek God. I just sit down and wait on a thought, it come and I got it. But if I'm hearing and I'm reasoning, it ain't happening every time. What does that do for me? That keep me focused. That keep me listening. That keep me reasoning. That keep me meditating. That keep me preparing through the truth. So I know that I know that I know. Some way, somehow, God worked in that. But whatever it is, he need to work out. That this man say, we none know all of it. We'll never know all of it. It's about teaching me how to listen, teaching me how to reason and rationalize, and line up with the thought of what's backed up in this book. And then in the by and by, we'll find out what it was all about. We'll find out how we got taught to learn how to follow. Because what Scripture tells us is, it says the steps of the righteous are ordered by God. So he gave me instructions through here. And so he telling me, he ordered my step. I have to step every day. I don't step one or two times. See, and again, when you come up sometime with this good idea, it's a good idea, but it's not of God. Sometimes you can get by with a good idea, and then sometimes a good idea will fail you. So it's different between a good idea and what God has instructed. So what's the purpose of the whole thing? It's learning that God is in control. God orders my step. God gonna protect me. God gonna guide me. And then because I got a righteous mind, sometimes some good things just gonna come to me, and I'm gonna follow them, and it's gonna come out good. Everything gonna come out okay. It's gonna come out right. Nothing great, but it's just gonna come out right. That's how God is operating. That's how God get us at ease. That's how God get us to rest and relax. We're going to find some more stuff down here, I think, over in ninth chapter, when I get to it, we'll talk about it. He says in verse 9, all this I saw as I applied my mind to everything done under the sun. I applied my mind. He got wisdom, he applied his mind to everything done under the sun. There's a time when a man lords it over others to his own hurt. So when he says the man lords it, he mean you done got up here and got in position, and now you want to walk over top of folks. But it's to your own hurt. So when folks, strong dictators, you feel the pain, but it's to his hurt. Because God's saying, in essence, down through this man, eventually, what he done is going to catch up with him. There it is again. No wrong goes unpunished. As long as the earth remains, it's going to be seed time and harvest time. Whatever you sow, you're going to reap. You get in a position of responsibility, you lord it over folks, you're going to get a harvest. He said, then too, I saw the wicked buried. Those who used to come and go from the holy place and receive praise in the city where they did this. This too is meaningless. They did their wicked stuff. They did their wickedness. They did their lording it over folks, even in the holy place. And they bite the dust. And they find out that what I was doing, it was meaningless. It served no purpose. There's no reward for doing wicked stuff. He said when the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, y'all listen at this good. When the sentence for a crime is not quickly carried out, the hearts of the people are filled with schemes to do wrong. So when they ain't smoke right away, he's saying they scheme even more. Although a wicked man commits 100 crimes and still lives a long time, I know that it will go better with God-fearing men who are reverent before God. So in that, he let us know, don't compare what the wicked man, don't measure yourself up against what the wicked man doing. The wicked man got a time. Stop worrying about the wicked man. He said, yet, because the wicked do not fear God, it will not go well with them. And their days will not lengthen like a shadow. You know, some wicked folks live a long time. Some don't. He said in the world, it often seems that evil triumphs and sinners go unpunished. Yet God assures us that he will eventually punish evildoers according to what they deserve. So when you get stuck in your mind that somebody getting away doing evil, vile, wicked stuff, there you go again with your mind clogged up and backed up, because every time you see them, every time you hear their name, you think they're getting away. So now, the place I got to hear my thought is now clogged with some other foolishness. And foolishness is, and a lack of wisdom is, believing that some wicked folks doing some stuff they're going to get away with. Every single person in this building, from the day of accountability to the day you die, you're going to be held accountable for whatever wrong you do. And you're going to be rewarded for whatever right you do. And so I don't need to look around and getting caught up in this. You doing your wrong, if I got to speak to you about your wrong, I'll speak to you about it and I got to move on. I can't get caught up in where you should have. No. I'll speak to you about what's going down and you got to get on. Now you got church discipline, so everything is balanced. You're doing some stuff and it'll hurt the whole thing, you got to go. But the bottom line is, I ain't got no business being stuck back here wrestling and battling with you because it serves no purpose. You got a day of reckoning with the king reckoner. And so ain't no need to get caught up in this stuff, because again, all this stuff comes, this evil and vile, wicked stuff comes to clog our mind. If my mind is clogged, I can't hear, I can't reason, I can't rest. And so now you can be worried about all kinds of things. You can be worried about stuff people done brought on themselves. You can be worried about stuff you think don't happen. You can't get caught up in that, because again, all this stuff comes to clog my mind so I can't hear. If I can't hear, I can't reason. If I can't reason, I can't rest. And so what I need to learn how to do more and more each and every day is how to keep junk out of my mind. So don't call me on the phone with no foolishness. Don't call me nowhere. Don't check me off to the side with no foolishness, because I don't need to be clogged, because I need to hear. And I need to be able to reason, because my hearing and reasoning is so important to my rest. I need rest. I need peace. I don't need to be walking around here looking like I'm 70, 79, 99 years old. You know, I had the man fix his air conditioner. Man, I thought the guy must have been 80 years old. He told me he was a senior when he called me, so he couldn't get out the house till 10 o'clock in the morning to come over here and work on his unit. And then when 10 o'clock came, he called me a little 410, about 5 minutes. 410, he said he had a flat tire, he had to put some air in his tire, so he was going to be about 15, 20 minutes late. You know what that is. He was going to be late, so he used his tire. I mean, it wasn't no big deal. I was been here. But when he got him and we engaged in that conversation and all that stuff, and he said, I asked him, I said, how old are you? He said, 62. I thought in my mind, wow. And then he said, how old are you? I said, I'm 68. He said, man, you look good for 68. He said, God been doing stuff some kind of way, he had it worded. And I said, yeah, in March I'll be 69. He said, man, you look good. And I have folks say from time to time, you don't look 68. Well, I am 68. I might not look it, but I feel 68. But the fact is, when this word talked about continence, you know, how when you in that place, how you look. See, if you worried, you look worried.
Yes.
If you're in sin, you look sinful. If you're a liar, you look like a liar. If you're drunk, you look like a drunk.
Yes.
If you're a drug addict, you look like a drug addict. Now, see, when you look in the mirror, you might not see that. But folk on the outside, when they look at you, they say, oh, that's a drunk guy. They prejudge you. They don't know if you're a drunk alcoholic. And like they were talking about this morning, they got a new drug out. They say it's worse than fentanyl. They say you can take a little crystal over there to take you out of here. They say when they tracked the fentanyl people down from China, they said what happened was they went and reproduced and found them a new drug. And so what's happening now, you got these fools over here. They say it was all out on the West Coast. Now it's all down here in Central Florida, South Florida, and somewhere, West Florida, somewhere. They done found a couple of cases of it. And they said they laced it in the marijuana, they laced it in the cocaine. They said it looked like cocaine, but they laced it in this other stuff. and they said this stuff that they give you that you gotta that they spend all that money in that stick them folks with when they get that fentanyl overdose. What is it? Narcan. They said that you gotta have a couple of vials of that to hit folks with when they get caught up on this stuff. And so people just scheming and plotting and doing all kind of evil, foul, wicked stuff. And you could get out there and play on that world stage, and you could get got. You could be running around here fine. Remember this guy out there we grew up with named Johnny Reeds in the woods? He went out there and got some bad dope.
Johnny dead now.
And he walked around after that. He was a smart, bright guy, from what I knew. After he got that stuff, he walked around gritting his teeth and looking in the air and head twitching and all kinds of stuff. That stuff messed him up. And I don't know if he's still alive or not, but that stuff messed him up. And so you get out here and play with these drugs and stuff, and look at it, them folks drop some stuff on you to kids. You're going to say, again, 13, they say, yet because the wicked do not fear God, it will not go well with them, and their days will not lengthen like a shadow. There's something else meaning that occurs on earth. Righteous men who get what the wicked deserve, and wicked men who get what the righteous deserve. See, now this where it showed me how much wisdom he had, but when you measure it up against the Bible and what God then had to say years and years after this, he didn't fully understand the wholeness of this. But when you compare the wisdom he had to those times, you can see in this statement. He said there's something else meaningless that occurs on earth. Righteous men who get what the wicked deserve, and wicked men who get what the righteous deserve. This too, I say, is meaningless. Now, the wicked man don't get what the righteous deserve. And the righteous man don't get what the wicked deserve, because whatever we deserve, it's God that give us what we deserve. So when I look at that as, him making that statement from the wisdom and understanding he had under the sun at this time. The righteous man deserved heaven. The wicked man deserved hell. So the righteous man ain't gonna never get what the wicked man deserves, because the righteous man ain't going to hell. So when you state those facts together, then you understand that he's talking about the wisdom he has is under the sun. When you talk about under the sun, it's on this side of eternity. He says, so I commend the enjoyment of life, because nothing is better for a man under the sun than to eat and drink and be glad. Then joy will accompany him in his work all the days of the life God has given him under the sun. So you're talking again about under the sun. He's talking about doing what the God part on this side. So he see that when God's hand is on your earthly work, that he's saying that you can eat and drink and be glad. Then joy will accompany him in his work all the days of the life God has given him under the sun. When I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe man's labor on earth, his eyes not seeing sleep day or night, then I saw all that God has done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. He don't know, in other words, what God's doing. It says, Solomon recognized that no matter how wise we are, we cannot by our own wisdom explain all that God has done or the ways of his providence. Like Job, we do not have to know all the reasons. We simply need to trust in the Lord and believe that he does all things well. If we are his children, we are in his hands. We his responsibility. So no matter what go down, if I get this in my mind, if I understand in this life that I'm in God's hands, I belong to him, he's responsible for me, then what that does, that takes all the weight off my shoulders. That put me in a place where I can rest. I can say, okay, God, you said it, that's so. I see this big mess in front of me, and it looks like it's going to bowl me over, but so did King Hezekiah when he looked out there. I think that was Hezekiah, saw that 185,000 out there threatening him. He took that letter to the Lord and said, this ain't mine, it's yours. They sent you a letter through me, by me. They dropped this letter off to the folks to give to me, to pass on to you. And I'm going to go to bed. And woke up the next morning, he had 185,000 dead folk out there that they spent a couple of days taking their goods off of. And so that's where we got to be. He says, again, no one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. Despite all his efforts to search it out, man cannot discover its meaning. You hear what he's saying? He's saying no one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. I mean, nobody knows everything. Nobody can lay it out point by point what's going to happen. Despite all his efforts to search it out, man cannot discover its meaning. So if you see a man out there, he's saying to me, if you see a man out there struggling, he broke, he ain't got two nickels to rub together, you don't know why that happened. You see a man blind, you don't know why that happened. You see somebody crippled, you don't know why that happened. You can't explain why that happened. Some get healed, some don't. You can't explain why that happened. Some get rich, some be poor. You can't explain why that happened. Why some millionaires, some billionaires getting away, you think you can't explain why that's happening. But God knows. He said, even if a wise man claim he knows, he cannot really comprehend it. Verse 9, 9th chapter says, he talked about a common destiny for everybody. After he done did all these classes and danced all around, he said, so I reflected on all this and concluded that the righteous and the wise and what they do are in God's hand. But no man knows whether love or hate awaits him. All share a common destiny, the righteous and the wicked, the good and the bad, the clean and the unclean, those who offer sacrifices and those who do not. As it is with the good man, so with the sinner. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. This is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny overtakes all. They tell me again, he didn't have a full picture past what was going on under the sun. He could see everybody dying, closing their eyes over here, but he didn't know the depths of what was going on the other side. His daddy did, but apparently he didn't. Because his daddy said when the little boy died, that he had fasted and all that stuff over, he said, I can go to him, but he can't come back to me. So his daddy understood, his daddy David understood. It said the hearts of men, moreover, are full of evil, and there is madness in their hearts while they live. And afterward, they join the dead. Anyone who is among the living has hope. Even a live dog is better off than a dead lion. I don't get that. For the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even the memory of them is forgotten. I heard him talking about some famous man this morning was dead and he was gone. And when you're almost dead, they don't forget about you. Eric Dickerson, he was a big time runner for the Los Angeles Rams for years. And they got the Super Bowl in Los Angeles this season. He said he wasn't going. They asked him why. He said, because they gave me some seats up in the rafters. So he thought because he was with them and he was famous and all that, he thought that clock was going to carry over to this game. They're going to give him some big time seats down close. And the boy said, no, we got, you see way up there in the top over there by that exit ramp over there, that's where your seat's at right over there. And he got mad, so he said he ain't going to the game. Like they care. They're going to sell them probably for $2,000 to $3,000 for some clown to go up there with binoculars and stuff and watch the game inside the stadium on binoculars. He say, again, verse 5, for the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even the memory of them is forgotten. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Listen to that. He's talking about the dead folks. He said their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. So all your evil, vile, wicked planning and all your corruption and all the dirty stuff you do, when you die, it counts for nothing. Because when you get out of here, ain't nobody going to remember it. Your actions and your deeds and your works won't work no more. You just, no more breath. You're gone. I mean, that's it. Done. Stick the fork in it. It ain't no more. So if all this evil and wickedness is so useless, why perpetrate it? Why do it? Why be a part of it? Why continue to be caught up in something that ain't gonna profit you past where you are? He said, all men know they're gonna die. So you know you're gonna die. You know you're going to die, but you're going to still operate an evil, vile, wicked lifestyle. And you know once you die, you're done. That's a bad place to be. But you got plenty of folks to still operate in that realm. He said, go eat your food with gladness. Go eat your food, instead of all this wickedness. After he explained to them their love, their hate, he's talking about the dead man. Their love, their hate, and their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. He says, so, in other words, go eat your food with gladness and drink your wine with a joyful heart. He's talking about them fresh squeezed grapes. He ain't talking about that fermented stuff y'all want to drink and stagger like stagger eat. He said, drink your wine with a joyful heart, for it is how that God favors what you do. Always be clothed in white, and always anoint your head with oil. Enjoy life with your wife, whom you love, all the days of this meaningless life. Life is just that's after it. They'll throw some blows, but them women had got him hooked up.
He got enough wives in common.
He said, all the days of this meaningless life that God has given you under the sun, all your meaningless days. For this is your lot in life, and in your toilsome labor under the sun. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might. For in the grave where you are going, there is neither working, nor planning, nor knowledge, nor wisdom. He said, I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise or wealthy, to the brilliant, or favor to the learned. But time and chance happens. Time and chance. Look at this verse. I have seen something else under the sun. The race is not to the swift, or the battle to the strong, nor does food come to the wise, or wealth to the brilliant, or favor to the learned, but time and chance happens to them all. You know what he's saying? He's saying these folk got rich by chance. He said, in other words, he could pick anybody out. Anybody could have been picked out. And you could have been billionaire by chance. You could have been born a billionaire by chance. It ain't something because you're so smart and brilliant. Now, we know we got a lot of people stealing now. But he's saying, by chance, that made it happen. Moreover, no man knows when his hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so men are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. I also saw in the sun this example of wisdom that greatly impressed me. There was once a small city with only a few people in it, and a powerful king came against it, surrounding it, and built huge siege works against it. Now there lived in that city a man poor but wise, and he saved the city by his wisdom, but nobody remembered that poor man. So I said, wisdom is better than strength, but the poor man's wisdom is despised, and his words are no longer heeded. The quiet words of the wise are more to be heeded than the shouts of a ruler of fools. Wisdom is better than weapons of war, but one sinner destroys much good. So when he talks about that joyful heart, he say we talk about the joyful heart in verse 7. He says, though death comes to all, and time and chance happen to everyone, we who are pleasing to God, should not stop enjoying what he has given us. The wine referred to here undoubtedly means sweet, freshly squeezed grape, for whoever run it back there. Grape juice. Freshly squeezed grape juice. That means they ain't have time on left for you to get drunk on. When he talked about doing your work with all your might, he said, whatever work we do, we should undertake it with all our heart as working for the Lord. And then when he talked about that poor man, he said, in this parable, a little city besieged by a great army, seen in a hopeless situation, but a poor wise man devised a plan, and the city was saved. Apparently, someone else took the credit for saving the city. However, and the wise man, probably because he was poor, was forgotten. Believers should recognize that while they are on earth, justice and fairness will be imperfect at best, but in life after death, God will right all wrongs and reward all righteousness. Everybody woke now? Y'all, I think a lot of y'all back to sleep back there, wasn't you? I can tell when the message in, because I see one little girl back there, she sleep, as soon as I stop, her eyes pop wide open. It never fails. I said, that's my alarm clock. Boom, she up. Anybody got anything?
Yes, Pastor.